only contained because a lot of the black Seminoles, as they called them, escaped slaves, not only the escaped slaves, the ones that were in Florida with the Spanish, taught the Muskogee people and the Seminoles how to herd cattle.
Mm-hmm.
So what you said makes totally a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But what has been given the credit to it is just Gullah Geechee.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're breaking down now brings it more at home with a better understanding. Seeing that the Fulanis was cattle herders. Because when you go and look into their early colonial history with the Spanish, they talks about the African cowboy.
Mm.
The British talks about it. The Americans talked about it. So what you said clears a whole lot of things from that perspective.
Mm.
I'll go down the line to see. Jared?
Yes, I got one question for you.
You got the floor for 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to say to Elijah, welcome to the House of Ancestry, and
Thank you
for taking my question, and thank you for the video that I saw posted. I have seen the video. It was a very interesting video, and explained a lot of things to me as well.
Thank you.
My question was, I was hearing you speak, I was wondering, I know you went in and you found the part about the Fulani people. Some of my history is Fulani as well, and Mali, Benin, Togo, Congo, Cameroon, all those territories. I just wondered, did you find everything that was that had been told in your family, even with the Native American? Was all that correct, or was that incorrect?
Well, again, we haven't found not a single drop of Native American ancestry in our bloodline, and we not only mulled over it. Again, we did 3 DNA tests from the descendants from Sumter, South Carolina, privateer in particular, which a study was done on the Redbone people, a genealogy study was done on the Redbone people of privateer, South Carolina, and that's exactly where my family's from. And 3 of my older relatives, none came up with Native American ancestry. So it's for me. My theory is very simple. During slavery times, if you had a chance to be classified as an African and be enslaved, or be classified as an Indian and allowed to live freely, what would you choose? Abdul Rahman. When America was formulating a treaty with the government of Morocco, as a goodwill gesture, they wanted to show, because a part of that treaty was that no Moroccan can be enslaved, no Moor can be enslaved. So as a goodwill gesture, they freed Prince Abdul Rahman, whom they mistaken for being a Moor because he was of a lighter skin complexion, and he read and spoke Arabic. So they say, oh, this guy must be a Moor. He can't be African. He must be one of those Moors from North Africa. So Prince Abdul Rahman, he didn't correct them. If being a Moor would set him free, he said, yes, I'm a Moor. And they set him free, and he actually met with the president of the United States. So out of necessity, he identified himself as a Moor, but in fact he was a Fulani from Futajalan, from Guinea. He was one of our princes from Futajalan in Guinea. So to answer your question, I have yet to find.
Has joined the conference.
I have yet to find any evidence that we are other than descendants from these particular people. And no, so far we haven't locked in any evidence of any Native American connection or ancestry, except in the family law.
Okay, thank you for that answer. The reason I asked that question is so many times that here in America, a lot of it has been told just like you've been told. I was told the same thing. I actually even had a document that was in my history allegedly saying that I was supposed to be Native American, but my Native American was not Native American. Mine goes back to India. Mine's the Indo-African. And yes, I have to Southeast Asia. And my maps all took me right back into Nepal, Bangladesh, those areas, and Sri Lanka. Okay. The reason why I'm saying that is because, and this is not necessarily a form of a question, but just, you know, I think it's good that we make sure that people understand just because you may have a document does not necessarily mean that you have the accuracy of your information. That's where you have to go back to your DNA, fact check, and re-fact check, and re-fact check again to make sure what you have is absolutely correct, because there's been so much that has been done here in America with our ethnicities that we have been told so much that has been used to politicize us. And we need to understand that what we have may not be what we really are. So,
that's right.
And I was interested in that, just knowing that you came back with no Native American, mine came back with no Native American as well, which means did not match the documents that I had.
That's right.
But it did show that I had the Indian. I did have that.
Yes. And so I hope that others will be brave enough to basically, you know, challenge the family law, you know, because none of us want to believe that, you know, our ancestors would have purposely deceived us. And again, I don't believe they purposely deceived us or they deceived us for malicious reasons. I just believe that they did it out of necessity, because like the red bone people of Sumter, South Carolina, they said they were never enslaved. So being identified as of mixed race and Indian saved them from that enslavement. So I think it was more out of necessity, and being that it was passed, you know, to the younger generations, it was never corrected. So here we are in 2017, and we have the same family law, but we should check and challenge it as you have done and as I have done.
Yeah, okay. At the moment, that's the only question that I have, because I was struggling to hear bits and pieces of what you were saying, and then when you were talking in, that question did pop in my mind. So I'm gonna give the floor to somebody else, Chief, and give them an opportunity. But thank you for taking my question.
Thank you, brother.
I'm going to elaborate on something he said. What you said again makes perfect sense. The red bones not being enslaved in South Carolina, because a lot of the rice farmers and cotton farmers were not slaves. They were indentured. So it was a different ball game for them. So as your family were free and classified themselves to be Indians at that time, and they tried to put them in slavery, is no different than a lot of the whites that have done it. But the problem with South Carolina, those whites refuse to identify with the African. So what you're saying now that the Africans did it, I can understand now why some of the whites in South Carolina are stuck on the Indian. Now, when they go ahead and take a DNA test and do more research, they're going to find out exactly what you just said to be true.
Right.
So I'm going to pause on that, and I'm going to give the line now to Melbourne for 10 minutes. Go ahead, Melbourne. You have the floor.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I didn't really catch the beginning of the lecture, you know, and my bad for that, but something you just said, Elijah, that mentioned the cowboy culture, right?
Right.
You know, when I was a little girl, that was our favorite things to play. We always would like to play cowboys and Indians. Now, think about that for a minute. Cowboys and Indians.
Yes.
And when you watch TV, you're not seeing no black cowboy. You're seeing what was that show? Roy Rogers.
Yes.
You're seeing Tonto and Timasabi. And
Yes.
you know, and that's what you're seeing as a child. You know, I'm talking like, you know, going back in the 50s, 60s, you see those things on the television.
Right.
So, but we used to like to play that, you know.
Yes.
Me and my siblings and other people, my other friends, their siblings, you know. And I always liked to be the cowboy. I never wanted to be Indian. You know? I always wanted to be the cowboy, you know. And, you know, I'm talking this because, you know, the psychological warfare that has gone on
Yes.
with our people for so long, and so much hidden information. It makes you, and you know, I'm a little upset about it. I've been upset about it from the time I started realizing a lot of things very long ago. I've been upset because they're still doing it. They're still hiding information, teaching the children false things, and the adults are being so gullible. I mean, if you tell somebody that, oh, you know, they say they're one thing, and you show them, well, go do a DNA test and find out the real fact.
Right, right.
You know,
yes.
And, you know, and do some research and really try to find out, well, where are you, who are you for real?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And it's amazing. And you know, the cowboys always fight the Indians.
Yes.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Right,
the
right,
cowboys
right.
fight the Indians.
Right, right.
You understand me?
Yes.
So then now it becomes a thing where the roles are switched.
Yes, yes,
When you're
yes,
talking about this red bone stuff, the roles has been switched.
yes,
For the real weapons, if you go right now on the internet and you look up red bone, they go say Indian,
Yes.
or Indian, and Indian.
yes, yes,
You will never hear them mention anything about black. You know, I mean, if you want to say black, I mean, just, you know, quote unquote, you know what I mean, right?
right, exactly, exactly.
If you hear them mention anything about blackness, it's like, oh, wow, that couldn't be. You know, we're looking at, when you talk about Indians now, what are they saying an Indian person is? A white person mixed with a yellow person, a red person, sorry.
Yes,
Right?
that is right.
Right?
That is
They're
right.
not saying anything about any black, anybody.
Yes,
So
yeah.
even now today, we have people that come up, quote unquote, Native, have some kind of Native American in their DNA. It's very, very minimal, especially when it comes to black people.
Right.
Very
right.
minimal. When it goes under that, I guess I said it. They say like 10% or
Yes.
something
Right.
to be actually qualified as, you know, being that. So you have under that amount of in your DNA.
Yes.
So do you see what I'm talking about?
Sister, I see exactly what you're talking about, and really, cowboys didn't become white until the advent of Hollywood. It was the movie industry that made cowboys white. Before that, everybody knew a cowboy was a black man. They knew that, and you know that because they used to call the slaves boy. You know,
my brother man.
Yes.
You ask somebody young now who is a cowboy, they're going to tell you some white man.
Yes.
That's a child that's right now.
Yes.
They tell you the cowboys are white people.
Yes, 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 and that was since Hollywood came into existence. Before that, everybody knew the cowboys were black. And if you look up, I wish I was able to show you the video of the Fulani, particularly in Mali. All of those tricks that you see that they used to do at the rodeo show, how they would stand up on a horse. I could show you black men to this day in Mali where they could ride two horses at the same time and straddle two horses at the same time, and they do all these amazing tricks on the horse. That's what became the rodeo show. But Africans still do that. That's an African tradition. That's a Fulani tradition. The Fulani in Cameroon.
They're horse people.
Yes.
They're horse people. They can handle some horses, I tell you.
Yes, yeah. Well, today the brothers are riding motorcycles. They're doing the tricks on the motorcycle, but it comes from you know, the tricks they used to do on the horses, they now transferring that to the motorcycle. But the point I'm making is that you see the Fulani, they dress the horses up. They put beautiful, you know, decorative items on the horse and everything. All of that is the same thing that you would see in the rodeo shows in Texas and so forth. But this comes out of Africa. It doesn't come from no white boys in Europe. They knew nothing about this stuff. That is an African tradition, totally, that was stolen from us.
You learn. You live and you learn.
Yes.
You live and you learn.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Yes.
You know, so the thing about it is now, you know, sometimes people get all blown out of shape, and I'm gonna just finish saying what I'm saying, but you know, people get blown out of shape when you're, and I said people, I'm talking about our people. We get blown out of shape when, you know, we trying to prove a point that to say we're something when we're not.
That's right.
You know, I
That's
mean,
right.
the conviction is so deep, and the scars, I should say, are so deep. The indoctrination is so deep that even when you're presented with the information to show you the truth, you refuse it.
Right.
You understand? So this is the problem that, you know, I don't know, you know, if it's complacency or whatever it is, but this is the problem. So, you know, and thank you for sharing with us and, you know, your experience and all of this good stuff, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Opening some eyes.
Yes. Thank you so much for adding on to this discussion. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Renee? Renee? Blackhawk?
I am here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, brother.
Floor is yours, sir.
Good.
I've been listening.
Yes.
And it's been a quite interesting conversation. My family lineage is also from South Carolina. And our family names on both sides, one is Sanders and Hay. On the other side we have Allens. The Allens are considered those red bones you're talking about. Living over in Allendale County. And I too have done DNA. And of course my lineage is coming from West Africa. And many of the designations that I've heard mentioned on this call. We have traced our ancestry back, of course, to Africa, to the United States. And I'm sure like everyone else is talking about long before the Europeans even knew that their continent was over here. So, and we still live there.
No,
we have graves and so forth that are still on both sides of my family on the Sanders. Since Allens came out of Alabama, over to Alabama, and my great-great-great-grandmother came in out of Alabama with some funds after having been indentured over there, and bought a plantation and actually owned some slaves. We found that out most recently. I'm sorry, Lonzado, I never shared that with you because I found this information out through doing our research, I guess about 8 or 9 months ago. But we do acknowledge ourselves not as Indians, but as indigenous people or of the first people of the land, along with a lot of other African groups. And we're really, we've been doing what we've been doing for our family. The United States has acknowledged the presence of our family here and has gone into an agreement with our families as an indigenous people. So we kind of live a little below the radar with the United States in a lot of ways. I want to thank everybody for what I've heard. I've learned some new terms. I've learned about some new people. Still my people, but some new people, some new perspectives, and I look forward to having some more communications with everybody.
Yes, thank you so much. And let me just to add on to what you said about the indigenous people here. There's said that the Indian, according to the history, was supposed to have crossed the Bering Straits around 16,000 years ago. Okay. However, West Africans have been sailing the high seas, and Africans in general have been sailing the high seas long before Columbus. In the Chronicles of Columbus, when he came here, he found people already here. And it was because he was searching for that new route to India that he called the people here Indians. But you read in, as I've read in researching Ibn Khaldun in the history of Mansa Musa, Mansa Musa came to power. Mansa Musa was the richest man that ever lived, but he came to power because the king before him, that he preceded him, went on a expedition. He had found some new territory, which many presume was the Americas. He came back, he got some more supplies and more people, and he left, for the new world that he found. This was in the 13th century. This is long before Columbus was even born. So here you have evidence of Africans from the Columbus Chronicles and other chronicles that they were already coming here centuries and centuries before Columbus. So yes, you could very well be both of West African ancestry and indigenous in the sense that you were here before the European came here, which will make you of the indigenous people and also makes you a West African. So there's no contradiction in saying, yes, I am both West African and I am indigenous to the American landscape.
Certainly not. And I certainly agree with you. Mm-hmm. We have always looked at this perspective, me, my family, have always looked at this issue from legal perspective more than from things like blood quantum and so forth. Mm-hmm. What we do know then is that the first people of the land are indigenous. Now we know everybody came from us. That's number one.
That's
Everybody's
right.
split out of East Africa,
That's
West Africa, North Africa,
that's
South
right.
Africa, all over Europe, all over across the world.
That's right.
So we know that to be a fact.
That's right.
We know that to be a fact. So, but with the battles that we've been fighting with our Caucasian friends is the rewriting history that they made.
That's right.
People that they're calling Indians were actually those Chinese folk mixing with our folk, and they became Indians. Fine, they can be Indians. We understand that sometimes in our conversations, however, we have to use that term just to be able to get through a conversation, but we always make sure people realize we're going to use this term so that we can get through the conversation.
Exactly.
We identify ourselves as indigenous people that came here 50,000 years ago from West Africa.
Yes.
That's how we identify ourselves in our family.
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay, Shante. Shante going once, going twice. Dominique. Dominique going once, going twice.
No question.
Okay, I have another gentleman that's on the line.
Warren's in there, Chief.
Mr. Blackman. Mosaic Blackman. Okay. Warren.
I'm just curious as to how long did it take you to actually track down
down some of the culture of the Fulani. I mean, I was watching that video. It was very interesting to see how other people could identify what they saw. I mean, I know personally, I've done a lot of searching just trying to find some kind of similarities and whatnot. And, you know, right now I just told Jared that I did get contact today, so I'm trying to make heads and tails out of it. But what was that experience like? And how did that change your perspective on how you look at yourself once you were able to be, well, once somebody else looked at you and could clearly see something that you had no idea was there?
Wow. Yes, I mean, thank you for that question, because really finding yourself, it opens up a whole new world for you. It explains a lot of things about yourself.
Has joined the conference.
It explains a lot of things about yourself that many would have thought to be abnormal, but if you look at yourself from the view of your own people, you are very normal for your people. For instance, for me, people used to, you know, think it was strange for me ever since I was a small boy to walk these long distances. And I mean, you know, and I would make those walks just like a boy training his cows to walk a certain route, so that, you know, once you walk the cattle a certain route over a period of time, you could basically go to sleep and the cows will walk themselves, graze, and come back to you. I was doing those type of walks naturally. And people would think, you know, that's strange. Why would you walk all the way up to Co-op City in the Bronx and walk back? This is like a 6 to 8 mile walk at night. It's like, why would you do that? And I would do it at the exact same time that Fulani people would do it. My desire to be circumcised at 13, you know, it's very strange that my life played out like that, because it's a Fulani tradition that the boys get circumcised at 13 years old. But I was the only person in my neighborhood, in my class, the only person I knew coming up that had that type of circumcision done at that age. So all these things that you think, you know, that in American culture is strange, but when you find your roots, you're like, wow, I've been a Fulani, I've been behaving like a Fulani my whole life. The way I eat, the way I walk, the way I talk, everything about me has been 100% Fulani. So when I study the people, and I studied myself and my family, my father, how he just basically, we lived in every borough except Staten Island. I was almost born in Florida. He moved there momentarily. He would just move from place to place like Fulani nomads. They stay for a certain while, and during the dry season, they move to another location because their cows need to eat grass. So they can't stay here if there's no grass growing. They got to move someplace else. So they stay here for a little while, then they move someplace else. My father had that same behavior. We would stay in this part of Brooklyn for a while, then we move up to Manhattan, and then we move to the Bronx, and then we move to another part of the Bronx. And my whole life, we've just been nomadic. So when you find yourself, you're like, wow, this is why Dad behaved the way he behaved. This is why I behaved the way I behaved. This is why I like certain types of music. Like, for instance, there's a flute called the tambourine, you know, which is called the Fula flute, the Fulani flute. And anytime I hear a song that had that particular type of flute, I would play that song over and over and over again. I'm like, that flute, I just love the sound of that flute instrument that is used by my people. I said, oh, wow, this is why I love those songs with that particular flute sound. So it's a eye opener on so many levels. You know, when you find out who you are, and then if you take the time, as we went, me and my great uncle, we went to Guinea, and wow, the experience is just amazing. So I advise, I would, you know, strongly encourage anyone, once you find your roots, go. And inshallah, we're working. I'm working with some brothers and sisters from the Fulani community here, or anybody who traced their roots to Guinea. You know, stay in contact with me, and at a certain time, we want to take a delegation of Black Americans back to Guinea. I mean, a lot of our people, they go to Ghana. You may or may not be from Ghana. A lot of people go to Senegal or Gambia. I'm sure that your people are there also. But there's a good percentage of us that come from Guinea, particularly in Louisiana, South Carolina. We come from Guinea, and there's not a lot of tourists that go to that country, but we should go, because when you go, you're going to see the features of your family. I've seen at least 3 Fulani that looks exactly like me. One looks exactly like my sister, my younger sister. My brother who passed away. I could go on and on. The experience is awesome. So yes, yeah. So that's what my experience has been like. I hope I answered your question.
I need somebody to mute their TV or mic. Okay. All right, go ahead, Elijah. Elijah, another thing, I want to point 2 things that is significant that you probably didn't know that I'm going to bring it to the attention. Mm-hmm. One, the flute you're talking about is played in the Native American culture. Mm-hmm. Look at all the Native Americans, pictures and songs, folklore, you find the flute. Mm-hmm. The second thing you find in Native American culture in the Southeast, and I tell people all this all the time, they say, no, it's Asian, is that Fulani hat.
Yes, yes.
If you look at that Fulani hat very carefully, that is not a Chinese hat.
Exactly.
That is a Fulani hat.
Yes, yes.
Which goes back to the Black Seminoles again.
Yes.
Which goes back to Texas again.
Yes.
Which goes back to Oklahoma again. Why am I homing in on this? Because accreditation is given to the Gullah, but they're not saying who these Gullahs are. I thank you for verifying it now.
Yes.
Many of these Gullahs that became Black Seminoles are Fulani.
Yes, they are.
Is there.
Yes, yes. But not.
People get emotional about this.
Yes.
You just helped me confirm what I was saying all along.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And just in the book, Africanisms in the Gullah dialect, you could get the book. Yes, that hat is exactly a Fulani hat. I wish I could. I have a picture with myself with one of those hats on. And but in the Gullah language, when you ask them to count African, they count Go, Didi, Tati, Nai, Joey, Jago, JDD. These are Fulani numbers. The Fulani words are all in the Gullah dialect. And and thank you for bringing that point out. How they too took on the Indian identity, but again, it was absolutely necessary during that time in order to remain free to walk the mainland of America, because they used to stay on the Gullah Islands, which were marshlands, and they were islands. But when they came onto the mainland, in order to remain free people, you had to take on a different identity other than your African identity.
I just have one last question. My question is, so in doing the video, curious about comment with genetic memory. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Yes, that's what I was talking about earlier. My circumcision age and the walks I used to take and everything. That is genetic memory. We inherit from our father, our grandfather, our great-grandfather, not just physical features. We inherit behavioral traits. This is very, very real. So, they could take away your name. They could take away your language. You may not be able to speak your language, but the genetic memory, the language is there. Like I said, I understood what he was saying to me, and I never heard the language before. And before he even translated to me, I knew what he said. That's genetic memory. It's already in your body, the cells of your body, your DNA. The information's there. And even though you may be what's called dumb doesn't mean ignorant. Dumb means you're unable to speak. But that doesn't mean you don't have the intelligence. You just are not able to articulate the intelligence. I could understand what he was saying. I couldn't speak back because my tongue was tied. And what's interesting is that I studied the Arabic language longer than I studied the Fulani language. But I'm more fluent in the Pula language than I am Arabic because Pula just is natural to me.
I walk about 3 miles a day. And I don't do it because, it's exercise, it's good. I'm 66 years old. I don't do it I do it because of a compulsion.
Yes.
And the first time I'm hearing what you said today, it's really, really interesting to me. I do it out, and I do this every single day. I put in about 3 miles a day walking. It's a